Okay,
Yes?
let's do that.
Good.
Yeah. So yeah, let's Lakita, if you could start, maybe pass it around to the rest of your team that's on.
All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Laquita Honeysucker. I'm with the USDA agency review team. In my day job, I work for the United Food and Commercial Workers, and they represent folks who work in food, retail, and manufacturing. And as you may know, it's been a little hectic for us in light of COVID. So on the agency review team, though, I'm focused on food safety and also helping out with nutrition issues as far as SNAP, WIC, and everything like that. So I'll kick it over to Deb, also known as Carolyn. No, just kidding.
Yeah, and just as Deb Eshmer again, I used to run Mrs. Obama's Let's Move initiative and was the senior policy advisor to President Obama. Before that, co-founded Food Corps and have had a couple other jobs as well as an organic farmer. And I am lucky enough to be a policy liaison on the USDA ART, taking on food and security issues in addition to local regional food systems as well as sustainable ag. So really grateful for the opportunity to hear from all of you today. I do have a hard stop at 2 o'clock Eastern, but I think Lakita can keep going. And also know that we did receive your materials as well. So thank you for that.
Great. Okay, thank you. Is that all right? It looks like we're still waiting for theirs to get on, so let's just go ahead and get started for now. David?
Great. Well, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate all the work that you're doing at the USDA agency review team and taking the time especially to meet with us today. For those of you not familiar, the American Sustainable Business Council is a growing coalition. And, as the president and co-founder, we've been building ASBC as a council of business organizations, investor organizations, and companies, to really work towards advancing market solutions and public policies to support a just and sustainable economy. And now we represent, with all of our members, over 250,000 businesses across the US. And we've just recently formed a partnership with Social Venture Circle, for an even greater impact in moving forward. So we really, are using today as an example of how we inform and engage with policymakers, other business leaders, media, and the like, in order to talk about the opportunities for a more equitable and sustainable economy. And we are working to really raise up this voice and the power that we have as businesses and investors to address the key issues around regenerative agriculture, as well as many other issues like safer chemicals, clean water, climate and energy, race and equity, access to capital, economic development, all of which we see as connected, and as a component part of building a more equitable and sustainable US economy. And we believe strongly that regenerative agriculture can play a significant role in helping us to rebuild our economy back better, but also fairer. For all of which, we appreciate, as we say, the opportunity to speak with you today. So together with a broad range of organizations across many sectors, representing many different constituencies, a number of which have joined us today, we're working collaboratively to help chart this course forward. And we've compiled a set of recommendations that for the administrative actions and policies, some of which we'll share today, and many of which you'll find in the document that we have shared with you earlier and will continue to share with you. Most importantly, we just want to emphasize that we are ready, willing, and able to work with you and the Biden-Harris administration to chart a new course forward. So appreciate your time. And now I'm going to turn it back to Colton Fagendis, our policy manager at the American Sustainable Business Council, who's leading up this initiative. Colton?
Thank you, David. So I pulled up agenda, run a show for the rest of the meeting today. I want to make sure that you're all able to see this and I'm on the correct view here. I sometimes have accidentally put my notes up, so I just want to make sure you're seeing the correct slide. And so going to start off with a brief overview of the memo that we sent you originally last week, and where we're going to go moving forward with that. And the recommendations that are going to fall under that memo are going to be presented today by our group of speakers that we put together. And in the interest of time, instead of introducing them each individually, as we're running a little behind, let them introduce themselves. But we're going to start sort of at a broader picture, putting together why regenerative agriculture, why are we here, what are the benefits, and why are we recommending that the USDA pursue these lines. Then moving down into more specific recommendations, and then justice and equity is a core component of what we are all coming together in this coalition for, and we see it as essential to pursuing a more resilient, regenerative agriculture and food system. And so following up our recommendations around soil health and sustainable agriculture, those sorts of issues, we will be having presenters go into recommendations around equity and building resilience and ensuring justice throughout the value chain. And so the recommendation memo that we sent, just to give you a quick update, that wasn't, we're still working on finalizing our coalition's collective recommendations. And so what I had sent you was sort of just an initial overview to give you an idea of what we'd be talking about today. And we're, as you've seen, there's quite a few people and groups and stakeholders and businesses and frontline communities and everyone from across the board come together to work on together in this coalition. And so it's taking some time to get together something that we're all on board with, but we will be getting that to you soon in the final memo, and hopefully be able to follow up with that very shortly. So let's get started here with our presenters. Start with Elisa from Green America. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for this invitation for the USDA team working into transition into a better future. We are so excited with your interest and to be working with you not only today, but across time. My name is Elisa Gravitz. I'm the CEO of Green America. We work on marketplace solutions to environmental and social justice issues. As part of that, we have several very large supply chain networks that are focused on marketplace solutions for agriculture and climate. And those marketplace focused networks include farmers, major food companies, investors, academics, soil scientists, and it's a really great multi-stakeholder way to identify and solve problems. Next slide, please. I got the opportunity to start us off with the big picture that I think many of you know, but many of you know Paul Hawken, and he basically says, solving the climate crisis is simple, but not easy. You got to stop putting those greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, and you got to draw down the ones that are already up there. One of the other things is that I love the way he frames regenerative agriculture, which is the combination of the long held indigenous traditions along with the emerging new ideas and together creating an exciting way forward into the future. Next slide, please. You probably also know very well Dr. Ratan Lal, soil scientist, World Food Forum Prize recognition, who says that the drawdown solution lies beneath our feet. If we could increase 2% of the content of the world's agricultural soils, it's the equivalent from bringing down the carbon crisis from 415 parts per million plus to 315 parts per million. And he emphasizes that carbon in soils everywhere can increase by 2%. Next slide, please. Which is what I'm going to run through real quick. So how much does it take? How long does it take to build 2% soil and carbon in cropland? Well, Dr. Alan Williams worked with farmers around the country, and you can see that in 3 to 5 years, farms and ranches everywhere around the country were able to increase by more than 2%. Next slide, please. Likewise, a whole set of scientists working on the same question in pasture land all across the country, same thing. To get 2% plus in 3 years, you need about 0.4% seed per year. And you can see that in these samples from around the country, pasture land exceeded it in so quickly. Next slide, please. One of the questions that many people ask is, well, is soil and carbon durable? Is carbon and soil durable? And the answer is absolutely yes. This set of scientists did studies, again, from around the country to look at carbon in different soil levels, doing carbon testing, carbon dating testing. So the best testing ever, and found that the amazing work of photosynthesis, sending those sugars down to the soil, to the roots, and the carbon exchange that goes on, and those little carbon microorganisms that make the soil so healthy, they go deep in and die, and the carbon stays there. So I just want to make sure that people who tell you elsewhere, they could brush up on their science. We'll say it that way. Next slide, please. I just want to mention, I'm sure everyone here knows, but in addition to the climate benefits, there are so many benefits of soil health: climate resiliency, water quality, biodiversity above and below the ground in terms of bees, pollinators of all sorts. We're going to touch on the business case on this panel, but just extremely great business case for farmers, which then benefits farm workers. Extraordinarily important for social and climate justice, and rural economies, also very important for economic justice, as well as food security. I think you probably all know that the Food and Agriculture Organization says we have maximum 60 seasons left of soil productivity if we don't do something about soil health. USDA NRCS has amazing data. And one of the really interesting pieces, sorry that this slide got a little bit messed up in our changes of formats here, but one of the things I just really want to focus on here is that most of US agriculture is degraded soil. And people will say, well, you don't get these benefits out of degraded soil. And they're right. You have to get the soil healthy. And once you get the soil healthy, once you get into that soil health zone, you get all of the economic and ecological benefits, and you get them rapidly. So if you ever hear scientists arguing or people arguing that you can't get these benefits out of soil, it's because they're looking at degraded soil and they haven't looked at how do you get that soil healthy. Very important to always understand as you're listening to debates.
Hey, Lisa, sorry to interrupt.
Back up, please.
Oh,
Yes.
yep. Sorry.
Okay, great. Next slide, please. I'll zip through this. Next slide, please. I think you probably, again, know all of this. This is what you have to do for soil health. It is the USDA NRCS's full multi-spectrum soil health. You don't get the benefits from doing one little thing. You need to do what farmers call all in on soil health. You're going to be hearing from Rick Clark in a few minutes. As a farmer, he's just, we love working with him. His leadership is amazing. He'll probably talk about other things than himself. So I just want to tell you the amazing work he's doing and the financial results he gets. Every farmer in the country would love to be $100 per acre over Purdue Farmer Expectations model in profitability, because many farmers are in negative per acre, let alone $100 acre plus. So just want to emphasize that. And on the size of his farm, another thing I want to emphasize, he's got a 7,000 acre farm where he's doing this, and he's saving $600,000 a year on input costs alone. Next slide, please. And this story that Rick is going to tell you, I hope, is true across the country. We have the honor of working with over 200 farmers, and the same story is the case. They can get to soil health in 3 years when they go all in. They get financial benefits from year one, and by end of 3 years, they're having significant profitability. So just want to, our quick recommendations are to make soil health a top focus for the administration because it hits your priorities on climate justice, and rural economic health. To focus on advanced soil management practices all in. Again, you can't get these benefits if you just dabble. That you can keep the cost down. The transition to regenerative agriculture doesn't need to be costly. The transition costs and risks are real, but again, when the farms go all in, they get the benefits quickly. So again, we don't have to be talking about trillions and trillions of dollars. Real needs, but not with lots and lots of zeros. And let's get started right away. Resist the voices saying it's too expensive, resist the call for more studies, resist the call that, oh, you don't really get these benefits. The science and the economics in peer-reviewed journals show that we can get this. We're happy to share this, and we're happy to make our networks from the farmers to the food companies that are demonstrating this every day available to you so that you have all the data. So thank you.
Thank you, Avi.
Yeah, thanks very much. So Avi Garbo, I'm the environmental advocate at Patagonia. Appreciate the chance to chat with you all. I had the pleasure of serving with a couple of your review team colleagues in the Obama administration. I was the general counsel at EPA, so grateful for the work that you all are doing and excited about what we can do in the upcoming years. Patagonia is an apparel business. I think many folks know us as that. We're also a food business, heavily reliant in both sectors on organic and regenerative organic ag. We talk a lot about how we grow our clothes, and so we have been wholly in the organic cotton space for decades now. Certainly rely on a number of natural fibers and organic fibers for a lot of our apparel. And as I mentioned, our Patagonia Provisions food business, which is growing, is really all organic and now regenerative organic certified. So for us, the work that you all are doing and certainly will be doing in the coming years at USDA is critical to us as a business. It's hard to disassociate kind of our success as a business enterprise from the work that USDA will and can do when it comes to sustainability and promoting organics, among others. A couple things I think, and I know Megan Debates from the Organic Trade Association will touch on these. Personnel is hugely important. I know that you guys are working on that. We want to make sure that there is within the senior ranks where appropriate kind of good voices and advisors for Secretary Vilsack, if and when he is confirmed on organics issues. I know very well that there will be some budgets that you all are, or the new USDA is putting together, appropriations for added research dollars in the organic space, I think is important. We have certainly seen through our work in the regenerative organic space that a lot of the conservation stewardship and other similar programs offered through USDA are both kind of underfunded and oversubscribed. So some additional attention there I think is going to be needed. And then there's certainly a series of rulemaking opportunities that we look forward to USDA tackling, I think, sooner rather than later. We know how long these take, including a lot of ways of strengthening the organic standards. The one area that I think is probably of greatest import to us as a business is climate change. It is the area I think that's going to provide the greatest differentiation, not only between the Trump administration and the Biden-Harris administration, but I think we all fully expect that the Biden-Harris USDA, when it comes to climate change, will look even stronger on climate issues than it did in the Obama era. Climate change is really impacting our business from our supply chain, how we deal with logistics, how we grow our materials, and I think as importantly, what our customers can and cannot do with our products in the outdoor space. So we're very much looking forward to seeing how Secretary Vilsack and others kind of meet this challenge. I was particularly pleased at the news yesterday that my former boss, Gina McCarthy, is reportedly being tapped in the White House kind of domestic climate space, but there will be an important working relationship, as we all know, between that enterprise and what goes on at USDA. Related to that, by the way, I just, before I close, want to mention another issue of great importance to Patagonia. I know to a lot of businesses, and that's the work that USDA does through the Forest Service and its protection of natural carbon sinks in forests. Would like to draw your attention to the recent actions undertaken by the Trump administration to reverse the roadless rule when it comes to the Tongass National Forest in Alaska. This is a very big issue for us at Patagonia, and certainly for our customers and other businesses as well. Cuts against everything that we're hoping to accomplish when it comes to nature-based climate solutions, which we need to address. So my hope is, amongst all of the rulemakings that you all begin to undertake sooner rather than later, tackling a reversal of that Trump rollback on the roadless rule is tops amongst them. So I'll stop there. I guess suffice it to say that there are extraordinarily large number of business interests associated with promoting organics and regenerative organics in the coming years. And we really do look forward to the work that you all will be doing and working with you at every turn. Thanks a lot.
Great. Thank you, Avi. And we're going to have Rick go next. And I want to quickly say for the USDA review team that is currently on, if you have a chance to change your names in the how they're appearing in the list of panelists, just so we can know who's on, because currently it still looks like we've got 4 Carolyns on.
This is Audrey Rowe. I was trying to figure out how to do that. I was having trouble getting on.
Oh.
And I finally got on, and then I realized that I was Carolyn Pincus. So
sorry about that.
I apologize, and my colleagues have been on board. I'm sure I'll catch up. But I'm Audrey Rowe, and I'm a member of the art team.
All right, thank you for joining us, Audrey. And yeah, if you go to, if you hit participants and go find where you are in the participants list, the panelist list, there should be an option to rename yourself. And if you can't find it, that's okay, but it would help to let us all get to know each other. But all right, moving forward, Rick, take it away, please. Thanks.
Thank you. I am honored to be part of this discussion today. Thank you very much. I am a 5th generation farmer from West Central Indiana. We've been on a long journey. We used to be massive destructors of the soil with tillage. We've now, in a migration, gone through no-till, through cover crop, farming green. And what I mean by farming green is we do not plant our cash crop unless it's into a green growing cover crop. Then we will terminate that cover crop after that cash crop has been planted. And that theory or that process of thinking about farming then has evolved into what I call regenerative organic stewardship. We are going to be 100% organic in the year 2022. And in my opinion, we are way beyond organic because we are doing this with no tillage. So when you start to look at what the farmer can do as far as climate mitigation is concerned, as far as healing this planet and gaining nutrient density in the food that they're producing through building soil health, it all goes back to cover crops, and it all goes back to reduced or no tillage. So once we slow down the exodus of the CO2 from the soil profile from when you've tilled it to the atmosphere, we can take all that stuff away. That's what we're doing now. And this is a very, very hard way to farm, but and also to do it to the scale that we're doing, but it is well worth the journey. Now, I apologize. I've only got 4 minutes to talk, and that's hard to do here, but I'm going to jump all over the place. I'll tell you what got me started was the USDA NRCS Equip program, and that program has to stay in place. It was the 3 years of carrying the financial burden of buying those cover crops to get the farmer acclimated to that system was exactly what got me hooked, and is exactly why I'm in the position that we're in today. Okay, with that being said, I think that the NRCS DCs, maybe not every one, but we need to figure out a way to get a roller crimper into the system along with a no-till drill so that the excuses can be taken away from the farmers in the area that say we don't have the proper equipment. So let's equip those local NRCS offices with this equipment. Then we need people that are going to train the teachers so that when the farmers come in, they know what to tell these people. And then that support group is in place. So there are so many ways or so many avenues that have to come together and to make this work, so that when that farmer leaves that NRCS office, he can safely say, I can go out and do this now. I'm going to have confidence in this. And when my 3 years of this equip is up, I'm going to be standing on my own and I'm going to be moving on. Regen to me is so valuable because it's the basis of building soil health. We have to learn how to be able to teach the people that can now teach the farmers to do these things. That's the biggest problem I see, is when we talk, we can get people charged up, but then we leave the venue and we go home and there's no support group there. That support group needs to be found and give those folks an opportunity to teach these farmers how to do this. I've got so many more things that I need to say or want to say, but you know what? My 4 minutes is up. There's other people that need to speak. Again, thank you. And this is a breath of fresh air that you are wanting to look at this and take this seriously. This is so important for the future of farming and the future of the planet. So thank you for my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. And I believe we've got Aria next, and I'm going to pull up your slides, Aria.
Thank you, Rick. Really appreciate your comments. I know we're all a big yes to those. I appreciate all of your time and attention. My name again is Aria McLaughlin. I'm the co-founder and executive director of our organization Landcorps, which is a nonprofit working to advance soil health policies and programs that create value for farmers, businesses, and communities. I'd like to quickly thank Kiss the Ground and the Intertribal Agriculture Council for their input in preparing these comments. And I just want to begin by emphasizing the essential role that soil health will have, not only in order for our farms to survive and for our rural communities to thrive, but as an essential tool in all infrastructure resilience and adaptation strategies. And next slide for me, please, Colton. The following recommendations that I want to give specifically are focused on the infrastructure and incentives needed to support the rapid adoption of soil health practices on American working lands, particularly in the first 100 days. Next slide, please. And regarding executive priorities, we want to first emphasize to establish soil health as a priority for all relevant agencies as an essential tool to address resilience, rural prosperity, risk mitigation, particularly flooding and drought, carbon sequestration, biodiversity loss, ecological restoration, and even our national security. And we'd suggest that partnering with other federal agencies such as EPA and the Department of Interior, BLM, FEMA, and HUD are all great ways to think about implementing this. Number two, for any upcoming infrastructure or stimulus and green jobs bills, we really urge this administration to incorporate regenerative agriculture and soil health practices on working lands and beyond as a critical way to revitalize communities and economies across the country. And I'll say that job creation as part of the administration's clean energy and climate plan should specifically include support for farmers, ranchers, and foresters, particularly in assisting the transition of land from conventional to regenerative ag systems. And as a model, we can look to Representative Pingree's Agricultural Resilience Act or Senator Booker's Climate Stewardship Act as a way to lay a path to create hundreds of thousands of new land-based jobs. Moving on to number three, to promote pasture-based planned grazing livestock systems as an essential tool for soil carbon sequestration, water security, and ecosystem restoration on federal lands. And number four, more creatively, to order an immediate deferral of agricultural loan payments due in 2021 and 22 production years, and additionally to extend the maturity date of all FSA loans by 2 years. And alongside that, we would suggest recommending or requiring soil health management training as a condition of those deferments. And I think Rick would be in support of that as well. Moving on to the next slide, please. Regarding future legislative action, we acknowledge that many of the important actions that lie ahead will take us beyond our first 100 days and will require coalition and consensus building. But I think I can speak confidently in saying that this group is really ready to work with you to strengthen crop insurance and agricultural lending by assessing risk reduction through soil health outcomes and performance and tackling some of those big issues. All right, next slide. The following is a laundry list of practical actions that can be taken, we think, pretty immediately by the agency. And feel free to cut me off if I'm getting into time here. But one, we recommend to direct the NRCS to establish a consistent set of soil health indicators, in-field sampling methodology, and lab calibration protocols. 2, to develop recommendations for the coordinated use of satellite observations and other remote sensing real-time monitoring technologies of management practices and corresponding environmental indicators, including fluxes in water and nitrogen and carbon on working lands. And related, to make these data available not only to advance scientific research, but also to enable calibration with soil testing results, otherwise known as ground truthing, and to ensure that we're really working on the informed development of crop insurance, lending, and other market-based incentives or government-supported strategies. 3, to expand research priorities for soil health and agricultural resilience related to climate change and other stresses within NEFA, SARE, and LTAR. And 4, to enhance coordination between USDA conservation programs on one hand and USDA research and extension programs to facilitate the implementation of informed on-farm practice recommendations. Next slide, please. 5, to direct RMA to recognize the role of soil health in reducing risk associated with droughts, flood, extreme temperatures, and other stressors.
Aria, I hate to interrupt, but we're getting short on time. Would you mind if we move on? And we will definitely be sending these recommendations in our follow-up in our memo. Does that work? Yes, I'm so sorry, but thank you, Aria. And next we are going to move on. Sorry, let me see. Aaron Newton, going to stop sharing my screen and please take it away.
Well, hello, my name is Aaron Newton. I'm the Vice President of Agriculture for Steward. We're an agricultural investment platform that's helped sustainable and regenerative farmers gain access to capital. I've also managed an organic vegetable production farm here in North Carolina for a little more than a decade. Today, I'd like to recommend an expansion of the Aggie bond program. Aggie bonds are an existing federal-state partnership that allows private lenders to receive federal and state exempt interest on loans made to small and mid-sized beginning farmers. It's a program that began in the 80s with pilots in Georgia, Alabama, and Iowa. And at its peak in the mid 80s, we were looking at about 24 states that had tax exempt bond agricultural lending programs. Then we saw a wane in interest for a variety of reasons. But in 1993, a federal tax bill granted permanent extension of the use of Aggie bonds. And there were also improvements made that allowed for more and better participation in the program, especially by new and beginning farmers. As a part of the 2007 Farm Bill, Aggie bonds were further improved by increasing the maximum bond amount to $450,000, and it was indexed at that point to inflation and now adjusts annually. The Aggie bond program has the capability to greatly increase the amount of private capital to regenerative farms, but has been marred by inefficient implementation, has been slow to respond to the needs of sustainable and regenerative farms. Many states do not even have or do not actively support the program. Others haven't developed a streamlined process that would be necessary to make the program a success. And currently we're looking at only 16 farms that even participate in the program. The Biden-Harris administration has the opportunity to support the USDA in working with states that have functioning Aggie bond programs and better implementation of the program across the entire country. Addressing the ad hoc nature of the state's Aggie bond programs would be akin to the work done by the USDA in 1990 through the development of the National Organic Program that helped to coordinate and consolidate support for various organic programs across the country. The result of that effort has been an increase in farms operating organically and an increase in the purchasing of organically produced products, customers purchasing those products worldwide. Redevelopment of the Aggie bond program would provide more financial inclusion and lower cost capital for regenerative farmers, and would incentivize them to meet the goals associated with climate change, ecologically sound stewardship of natural resources, improvements in human health, and profitability of regenerative farms, all things that seem to be important to this Biden-Harris administration. So to accomplish that task, we suggest the creation of the Aggie Bond Advisory Board and tasking it with the following. Number one, oversee an evaluation of the current Aggie Bond program, including best practices, strengths, and weaknesses. Number 2, make recommendations to the USDA as to how best to improve the program so that it includes all 50 states with a streamlined process. Number 3, ensure the Aggie Bond program provides specific support for regenerative agriculture. And number 4, oversee the twice annual evaluation of the program so that it can respond consistently and in an appropriate and timely manner to the needs of those farmers who could benefit from the Aggie Bond program. So what we're suggesting is an advisory board that would do the work of taking advantage of a super underutilized program that would make it interest free to invest in regenerative agriculture and provide us the capital we need as a segment of the agricultural industry to grow and make a lot of the improvements that are needed. And I thank you for considering this recommendation.
Thank you, Aaron. And as a note to our friends over at the USDA transition team that are on, we will be following up with, of course, documents with these recommendations that are being presented today from each of our individual speakers, and then also a collective memo with our collective recommendations. So moving forward, Megan.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
All right.
Okay, great. So thanks. This is Megan Bates from the Organic Trade Association. So I just want to start out by saying that the USD Organic Program has really come a long way since the program was originally implemented in 2002. We exceeded $55 billion in sales last year and now represent 6% of total food sales. So organic still is one of the fastest growing segments in food and agriculture and is projected to continue that into the future. And as some panels have already recognized, organic has many broad benefits, one of which is climate change mitigation. But in addition to that, there are direct economic benefits for farmers in rural communities. We now have science and data that demonstrates the nutritional benefits of organic food, as well as improved occupational health for farm workers due to the reduction in pesticide exposure. So given organic's success and the many broad benefits it offers, we really need USDA to reflect that future, and organic should be given attention in every mission area, especially nutrition and rural development. And of course, we think that if hopefully Secretary Vilsack, future Secretary Vilsack, if you guys do stand up a climate change program at USDA, which we hope that you do, that organic has a seat at the table in those discussions, organic farmers and businesses, given our experience in sustainability. So beyond that, these key areas, what we really need is support from USDA and renewed and strong leadership within the department, especially within the MRP AMS mission area with qualified staff that have experience and understand organic. The biggest challenge we faced with USDA since the inception of the program has really been the lack of clarity and updates to some of the organic standards. So we still don't have clear, consistent standards for how dairy farms transition to organic, animal welfare and outdoor access for poultry. There's no clear standards for greenhouse production, pet food, personal care, aquaculture, which are emerging areas within organic. So it's really hard to enforce the organic program when you don't have clear standards for some of these major and growing industries. So it really, the impact of that is it directly causes economic harm to farmers that aren't competing on a level playing field, but it also reduces consumer confidence in the label. So you can see the timeline of how long some of these standards questions have been in development at USDA. You know, a lot of these standards questions and rules span multiple administrations. So in fact, under the Obama administration, many of these issues went as far as proposed rules, but they just never got finalized. And when Trump won the presidency and Secretary Perdue came into USDA, they pulled everything, all that work that had been done under Vilsack related to organic, they pulled it off the unified regulatory agenda. So we really need to clear that backlog in order to move forward. And then in the future, make sure that the department is moving forward standards in a more expeditious and nimble manner. Organic is a voluntary program, so we need our partner within USDA to make sure that we're advancing the standards. And I'll stop there and I'll give you guys our full transition memo, but we also listed some immediate wins for the first 100 days. particularly getting the final rules done on origin of livestock and on animal welfare standards, as well as strong leadership and reestablishing our voice within USDA. So thank you.
Thank you, Megan. And next, can I hand it over to Juan?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Laquita and Audrey, appreciate you all being with us today. Just a quick background, I'm speaking to you from Austin, Texas. I also am a 5th-generation farmer, farm some cotton and grain sorghum, and I want to compliment Rick on his success there on his farm. So as I mentioned, I represent the Latino Farmers and Ranchers Association out of DC. Rudy Arredondo is president. Provide advocacy for Latino farmers and ranchers throughout the country. I want to talk to you about a couple of little different things here on equitable access to USDA programs. Even though USDA has made some strides, there's still a lot of work to do. One of the major issues that, especially in the Southeast by African-American farmers, was this issue on heirs property. And the situation was that it's family-owned land that was jointly owned by descendants of a deceased person whose estate did not clear probate. So the descendants have a right to use the land, but they don't have clear and marketable title to the property, since there's still a lot of issues that were unsolved. So in order to participate in USDA programs, they have to come in and establish a farm number with a Farm Service Agency. Well, without a clear title, without a good lease agreement, they were unable to do this. So the Rural Coalition, as well as Latino Farmers and Ranchers, before the 2018 Farm Bill passed, worked with legislators to get some provisions into the Farm Bill, which was great. So the Farm Bill authorized for alternative documentation for heirs property operators to establish a farm number with FSA, and FSA has completed this with the additional provisions. So we just want to make sure that the word goes out to producers throughout the country that they're able to bring alternative documentation to set up their farm numbers in order to participate in programs. The other thing is that they included on heirs property was that they authorized a relending program to provide loans to entities, for example, co-op, nonprofit organizations, and they in turn would relend the funding to the heirs to resolve ownership issues. Now, y'all probably have gotten into this situation, clearing an estate. It takes money to do this. And especially if there's a lot of heirs, it will take a lot of money. So this program is still pending. They did have some listening sessions in 2019. And during the fiscal year 2020 appropriations, they authorized funding. The rule has not been issued. In talking to the agency, the rule is expected to be issued early in 2021. So some good things here that occurred with heirs property issues. The next slide, Colton, please. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about was access to programs by SDA socially disadvantaged producers with limited English proficiency. What are the issues? The small farmers or SDA producers have difficulty accessing land and capital. Very important. So it's important to seek assistance from USDA so that FSA can assist with loans. One of the major barriers is their limited English proficiency. There's a lack of bilingual employees in USDA service centers. There is a translation service available, but translation is only beneficial to translate, but not to interpret program provisions. So it's important to be discussing and interpreting the provisions with those producers in their language. They have difficulty in understanding the program forms, although there are some forms that are translated. More forms and informational material needs translation. Another thing is a lack of access to broadband services in rural areas, and also producers not having the ability to operate computers. There's forms that are available, information available in the agency sites, NRCS, FSA, RMA, that could be in Spanish, but do they have the skills? Do they have the broadband, the internet service to download this information in PDF documents, et cetera? So that is also an issue. Next slide, please. So as far as recommendations, a few recommendations, and this is a short list, Colton and others, but let's have some more listening sessions to determine the existing barriers. We just had a meeting with the Rural Coalition. I talked to some producers there. They have these same issues that they're still struggling with in different states. Increase awareness within USDA agencies. The agencies themselves need to coordinate with each other to make things work. Monitor outreach efforts to ensure farmers are aware of translation services. Some of these farmers may not be aware. Recruit more bilingual employees to interpret information, and also maybe some virtual communication with producers to assist with explaining and completing loan applications. Maybe there's a farmer in North Carolina and a loan officer in Texas can virtually communicate with that producer for, to apply for a loan. Also work with local entities to create markets for their products, very important. And then increase knowledge of internet tools. Some communities may have programs where they can help producers to understand, the internet tools available, their cell phones that they can utilize, et cetera. So these were just a few recommendations here. If this piqued your interest, I do have a more detailed paper that I can provide regarding the issues and more recommendations, more in details. So Colton, I'll just stop there. I think I only had 3 slides, right?
Yep,
So
thank you, Juan.
Stayed within the time. Thank you.
I just wanted to say, one, it would be helpful if you do have additional recommendations, et cetera, to provide to us. Equitable access is a priority of not only the president-elect, but certainly the secretary-designate. We have been, as a team, focusing very much on equitable access, and particularly working with farmers of color and bilingual farmers. So it is important that we hear from you, and I will probably put you in touch with a couple of other people who are on the team who specifically, and Laquita, you may pass it on as well, who are working in this area on these issues with recommendations, getting ready for our report to the transition.
Yeah, it'd be great if you could send that longer report. We've done a series of meetings with groups who are assisting with the heirs property issue. So I think having those specific recommendations and the challenges that we can list out, that'd be great.
Okay, thank you all.
Great. Thank you. And
Colton, the only thing I wanted to mention to the group, I worked for USDA for 40 years with NRCS and Farm Service Agency. Spent 4 years in the national office with Farm Service Agency. So since then, I retired about 6 years ago. Time passes fast, but I have been working with Latino farmers, volunteering, helping out where I can. Thank you all.
Great.
Come on back.
And I will mention, in addition to Juan following up, we will also include in our follow-up memo recommendations, many recommendations, priorities around equity and access and justice and heirs property, et cetera. All right, so we're gonna have our last presenter go, Weezy.
Good afternoon, thank you. My name is Weezy Littlelock. I'm the CEO for Redco, which is a ecosystem of for-profit, nonprofit organizations operating on doing economic development on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Central South Dakota. Part of our operation includes about 1,800 acres of organic farm land, or land that is being put into the organic process right now, as well as a 28,000 acre regenerative buffalo range. I like to consider myself an 80th generation buffalo and land steward. I also want to really thank the panel for your contributions. Back in 2008, I served as the Native American lead for the Obama-Biden transition team. So I know how busy you guys are, and also served as a political appointee in the Obama administration as well. I'm going to run through my recommendations very quickly. And all of these recommendations, in one, either directly or indirectly, hit on the identified priorities of the president-elect around COVID, economy, race, and climate. And so the first one is around leadership and political appointees. It is incredibly important that the government looks like America, which must include the appointment of Native Americans to senior leadership positions throughout the government, and also include, and not just those political appointments must also not be just pigeonholed to kind of Native American specific issues. So for example, it would be great to see Native American Rural Development Director at the state level in states where there's high Native American populations. Second, I think that we really need to see a priority given towards fully implementing the 2018 Farm Bill. And there's a number of Native American specific provisions in that bill that need to be either started or completed in terms of implementation. One of those, being the elevation of the Tribal Affairs Office and to the secretarial level within that office. That needs to, kind of happen immediately. Also, the establishment of the Tribal Rural and Technical Assistance Office, that needs to be stood up as quickly as possible. And we need to ensure that that technical assistance reaches people on the ground at the state level. And so there needs to be, close coordination with folks kind of in the field to make that happen. Also, I think another area where we could use a lot of help is specific funding made available to tribes who have approved tribal hemp regulations. We've been able to stand up regulations, but the next step is now to provide funding and technical assistance to help tribes be able to kind of implement that regulatory process. One thing that I want to talk about that we haven't quite touched on is using the power of the purse of the federal government. USDA is a big spender. Food and there's all kinds of food and nutrition programs, et cetera. If we want to align policy across the federal government, USDA itself can create and strengthen the markets for regenerative ag simply by the food and goods and services that it purchases. So for example, if we were to include requirements around organic, requirements around regenerative for purchases made under the Food Distribution on Indian Reservations program, we would be able to stand up these markets immediately and create the conditions for and the incentives for producers, not only on reservations, but across the country, to begin implementing regenerative agricultural practices, which are going to be an incredibly important part of addressing climate change. The other kind of big piece I'd love to be able to see is the development of more Native American farmers. And I think that we've seen a really cool example in the NIFA Ag Vets program in terms of what they've been able to do to help veterans across the board. I think if we had a similar program kind of geared towards Native America, that would really help to kind of grow and develop Native American farmers who are doing more and more of these practices. And then, of course, we like to think that Native Americans and Native America are the mothers of regenerative ag and the mothers and fathers of sustainable land stewardship that is carbon neutral and that is good and strong for the planet. And it's pretty much a proven fact. There are no better caretakers of land than Native Americans. And so returning land, federal land, including land owned and managed by the USDA back to the original inhabitants has to happen. If you want to protect land and if we want to address climate, that's probably one of the greatest and strongest things that we can begin doing. I could go on for a long time. We have whole pages and pages of recommendations, but I want to make sure that I'm sticking to the time limits and allowing time for kind of more questions and answers. But again, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Weezy. And unfortunately, we are almost out of time, but we covered so much great ground, and maybe it was too ambitious to have all this great information in one place. But in this last minute, I have other things I could say to close out, but I want to give an opportunity to Laquita and Audrey and whoever else from the the USDA team that is on, if you have any comments that you would like to jump in with before we wrap things up.
Well, let me just jump in with one, because what I'd like to do is, once I get, and I hope I can get the presentations as soon as possible, I'd like to share them with several other members of the team who are working in areas that you specifically talked about on this call. And this does not have to be the last call. So there may be an opportunity for some further conversation with other team members either next week. I mean, we're not over until January 20th, so we'll be around. So next week may be an opportunity to have some follow-up conversations around, organics, have some more conversations around land ownership, air property, those issues that came up. I liked some of the ideas that I heard, and which is why I anxiously wrote down, can we get copies of the presentations? And so what I will do is share it with Laquita, I think to Jonathan Compass and Robert Bonnie, of course, who heads the team, and several other members of the team, and suggest that they can contact and convene an opportunity. What's your thinking on this, Laquita?
I think that is great. You guys hit on a lot of the topics that we're working on. So one of the things, we recognize procurement, but it's great to have stuff to dump in there and kind of back it up. We did it, kind of generally, and we hadn't factored in regenerative farming, but happy to kind of add that to it. So I think John Padalino on our team is really focused on broadband issues. Before we even get to 5G, he's the first one out there saying, like, some people have to go to their mailbox to even get a signal. So I'm really impressed and excited that you guys have hit on all of the things that we're, looking to focus on. So I definitely agree with Audrey that we should try to see and get you guys connected to folks who are working on these specific issues. And as soon as we get info, we can share it with the team and, just kind of flag it. But really good to hear from you all today. You guys really covered everything, and looking forward to the information.
Great, thank you. And really appreciate you showing up and listening to us.
One more thing, a lot of you guys are dumping stuff in the comments, and unless I'm able to kind of copy it and then paste it somewhere.
We'll get that to you. We'll get you the
Okay,
comments. We'll get you the presentations.
Good.
We'll get you the audio, the video. We'll get you also the recommendations, and then we also have links to some of the other folks, had also produced a set of other recommendations, full form and the like. So we'll get you that detailed information, and then some of the additional information that was referred to today, we'll collect that and get that to you as well. So you'll get enough and a lot, and I think we all stand ready to go deeper and further, both in and just understanding how important, as you're hearing, from race and equity to addressing climate, over to agriculture, over to inclusivity, right? That all of these are connected for us. And we're so glad that it seems that the team really gets that. And so we stand ready to work with you, not only today, but tomorrow and next week, and do additional meetings, but through the transition into the next administration. That we think that working together, business, investors, all these groups, and the administration, or all of you, that we can really make an impact. And we need to on these issues. We need to.
Get it to us as soon as possible. As you know, we've been doing a balancing act between making sure we were hearing from external stakeholders and working with the agencies. And so timing is right now essential. So whatever
tomorrow, by tomorrow, you get it.
Today. Tomorrow.
Today. Okay. We'll get some today.
Even if it ends up being late, because we're working into the late hours. So and I don't think it's
there was such rich information here. I really want to get it out as soon as possible.
Well, This is great. Well,
Okay. And thank all of you for taking time to put all of those ideas
Yeah.
together and want to talk to us about it. And so this has been really very valuable. Colton, thank you. Carolyn, thank you for reaching out and putting the information, letting us know that this group wanted to meet and we were able to set something up, but this is very much appreciated.
Colton,
Thank
close
you.
us out. Yes.
All right. Now, I appreciate you very much. And I'd just like to finish off saying that, yes, we are all here on this call, both the presenters and most of the participants that are a part of our coalition as well, who have been silent. We all stand to work with you moving forward and engage. And we have many people very passionate about these issues and lots of expertise as well. All right.
All right. Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks for taking time and looking forward to the information.
Great panel. Thank you.
Thank you all.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good day, everybody.